Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and we have the OP12 release coming up in the next couple weeks for the One Piece card game. It's kind of stuck up on me a little bit, and we are going to be making some more content, doing some more live stream testing some stuff, but we're also kind of in this weird waiting period because we know that there's a restriction list announcement happening next week, and we don't know if it's going to, affect our OP12 format and what cards are going to be hit in the first place. So I did want to kind of go over like this preview power rankings that TCG Matchmaking put out this week. This is with their first week of the OP12 meta as we know it right now, at least based off the Japanese meta. And it's also just, a big difference because, again, we don't know exactly what the restriction list is going to be. So it is going to be an early preview. Keep that in mind when you're checking this out. But we are going to keep updated with the One Piece OP12 meta as we have it. We're just kind of like in this week waiting period right now. So if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We make a lot of One Piece content, and I don't want you guys to miss it. The OP12 section is live right now. It's a bit outdated because, again, I've been a bit like demotivated to update it when I don't know if these deck lists are going to be viable or not, but I will have more and more in the next couple weeks as well. Also, we do have pretty much the end of OP11. I have been updating the power rankings, the deck list table, and everything else. We did have a bunch of Gen Con events and other events that happened this past week, including the Paris finals and everything else, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already. And lastly, we do have a sale going on the online store if you haven't seen that. 10% off if you use the code SUMMER10, and the first 100 orders will get the free Eggman event sticker. So check that out if you haven't already. But we're going to look at the power rankings, and again, these are just the top 10 deck lists based on win rate and usage from the TCG Matchmaking rank server. If you guys want to see more content from them, you can check out their Patreon, which is linked in the description as well as on this page. But we have these 10 decks here. So going through it, we do have the blue and purple Luffy in rank 1. We've got Zoro, Silvers, Captain Kidd, and the green and purple Monkey D. Luffy to round out the top 5. And the bottom 5, we've got Bonnie, Teach, Betty, Enel, and Smoker. So some of the usual suspects, right? Obviously blue, purple Luffy has still been doing very well, and it has been doing incredibly well in the OP12 Japanese meta. The new leaders, Zoro and Silvers Rayleigh, I think are both very, very strong and very popular as well. You can see the usage for it too. Kid and also now kind of some yellow decks are a little bit more surprising, but there was also like a really big top 8 finish at Paris with Eustace Kid, so I know people have been testing that out too. And it's just going to be, I don't know, this is kind of a weird set where there are some like really strong cards and strong decks, but nothing I think that's going to be like super impactful for the game. I think that OP11 has, the super big power spike with just like how purple Luffy's been perceived. The star decks that came out also in the beginning of our OP11 meta has changed a bit too, but it's kind of like a weird format right now. And especially again, since it will likely change when we get OP12 in the next couple weeks, if the restriction list hits us as well. So we also have the early preview matchup chart here if you guys want to see. You can see that blue purple Luffy still has some really good matchups across the way. Only rough matchup is Balo Betty, which hasn't been doing quite as well in the Japanese meta. I think that Betty has a bit of a tough spot into Buggy, but also Silver's Rayleigh, and as well as like Bonnie getting the support, and even like the Zoro matchup's kind of tough for it. So it's really kept alive on the fact that purple Luffy matchups are really, really strong for it. So if that's still really popular, Betty could be powerful, but I mean, I am gonna, I have some expectation that a purple Luffy card or tech will be hit in some capacity. We have Zoro, which has a pretty even matchup. Only kind of rough matchup is the Silvers Rayleigh, but the rest of the board feels really good. Silvers itself only has a rough matchup into Buggy, strictly because you do have that issue where most of your cards in your deck are 3 cost and 4 cost, so the promo Buggy can be quite an issue for you to be aggressive. Otherwise, you're one of the better aggressive decks in the game, only having a rougher matchup into Bonnie, and then the rest of the field here as well. So again, this is just like the matchup chart that they provide. If you guys want more details, you can check out their Patreon and get that role on TCG Matchmaking. But we're going to go over the the highest rank list for each leader on the ladder right now. We're going to start off with the blue and purple Luffy, and honestly, nothing has really changed with this guy, right? I have been seeing people put like a little bit more rush. Like you can see in this build, like there's a couple techs in like having the 8 cost Secret Rare Luffy, the 9 cost Mihawk, as well as the 9 cost Monkey D. Luffy from OP09, but it's the same list. There's no new cards from OP12 for this deck. It's still very, very strong. It's still doing well. It is, I will say, a trade-off where this is a pretty complex deck. There are ways that it can brick, and there are ways to beat it. There are some bad matches for it, but by and large, it's not too surprising that this is still one of, if not the best deck that's in the game right now, and why a lot of people are theorizing that there might be some change-ups with it. So I don't have much more to say, but here is the build for blue and purple Luffy. Next up, we've got one of our newer leaders. It is the green Zoro. So this leader, if you guys don't know what it does, has the Dawn ×3 activate main once per turn. If this leader battles your opponent's character during this turn, set this leader as active, then this leader cannot attack your opponent's characters with a base cost of 7 or less during this turn. So kind of the main idea with this is that you have a leader that's able to attack more than once. Kind of invokes a little bit of the Starter Deck Kid from Starter Deck 2 as a leader as well, but you are a little bit more flexible with it. And but it's also, you can only attack a character once after you use this effect. But generally speaking, I think the support for Zoro and this deck is one of the kind of key points for the set in general. Green has a lot of great cards, including the Perona. This being able to search, if your leader has the slash attribute, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, remove up to 1 slash attribute card or green event, add it to your hand, and place the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. This is kind of like one of the first time that like the attributes really matter in this game. So this being able to be like a searcher in Zoro is really, really nice. But you'll also see that there are some other leaders that are able to take advantage of this search potential as well. This also is a supernova type leader, so that does mean that Cavendish gets to be at full value. It's also a slash card, which is insane for this deck. Being able to have like a searchable Cavendish that also works with it is really, really nice. We do have our top end of like the Hody Jones as well. One of the cards I know a lot of people are theorizing might get hit in this next little restriction list, but we also do have some ways in case it does get hit that we'll see in a little bit. We also have Mihawk, also searchable as well, but this being able to be a blocker 8k that also lets you have 4 Dawn active afterwards, as long as you don't play anything with base cost or 7 or more, is great. Like inherently with Zoro, right, you're able to play this card, and then you get to get those rested Dawn. You get to put them on your leader if you need to get the Dawn ×3 effect for your leader effect. And then there's obviously, being able to reset your Dawn. There's so many great ways to do it. So obviously you can't play like more than one Mihawk a turn based on the restriction. But there are some times like, you can go Mihawk into Cavendish, and then you just played a lot of bodies out, and you still have a lot of Dawn left to use, which is really, really nice. So I think Zoro is going to be one of the premier decks. I know a lot of people have been excited for it, and it's specifically there's a lot of great support cards that this leader got, or built for this, that a lot of other green decks can take advantage of. So there it is. Next up is Silver's Rayleigh, and this is probably the deck that I've had the most experience with in this format. It's a really cool aggro deck. Like I normally don't play aggression based decks, but if there's like a cool combo or there's kind of like a line that you have to try to walk, I usually kind of fall in love with them. So for this one, there's a lot of like searching. If you don't know what Silver's Rayleigh says, you cannot have cards with a cost of 5 or greater in your deck according to the rules. So that doesn't even mean just character cards, but also it means event cards or anything else. So you have to have a low to the end. That's also kind of why like buggy promo could be a bit of an issue with this deck, because most of your attackers just can't attack in this deck in general. But activate main once per turn, you can reveal 2 event cards from your hand, give it to one of your characters with a base power 4k power or less plus 2k power for this turn. So kind of the best cards to take advantage of that is the Sanji. This has a base K of 3, or a base power of 3k, but then also, you're 6k on your turn, and then you can make it an 8k without investing any Dawn, which is absurd for a 3-drop in this game that also has the on KO draw. We also have the Luffy, so if you have a total of 2 or more given Dawn cards, it gets plus 2k power. This is on both players' turns, and then on play, you may reveal 2 events from your hand, play up to 1 red character with 3k power less from your hand, then give it to 1 rested Dawn to your leader or one of your characters. So all of that is pretty nice. So you can use this effect to then play out the Sanji, and then you get some good aggression next turn. So the other thing is that, on its surface, you're like, man, this deck is playing a lot of event cards, but it's really kind of based around how the deck works. So we have these 3 kind of like hockeys for us, and then also the unblockable one. But armament, this is generally probably one of the more flexible ones. You can attach 1 active Dawn to your Silver's Rayleigh, give it to one of your leaders plus 1000 power for this turn. So essentially, you discard a card from your hand to get, the plus. It's you spend 1 Dawn on your leader to give it a plus 1000, so it does let you have like 11 Dawn for the turn for giving out power, which is nice, and has the counter this is a 2k in the deck too, which is really, really nice. Observation hockey, you can attach 1 Dawn to your Silver's Rayleigh. So you'll see a lot of this is that you have to attach active Dawn, but you still get to like use the Dawn afterwards, right? So it's kind of like a cost of like half a Dawn, if that makes sense. But look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 red event card or 1 cost 3 or greater character card added to your hand, then place the rest of your bottom of your deck in any order. We also have Conqueror's Hockey. Give it to one of your characters or your Silver's Rayleigh plus 2k power during this battle. Then you may rest one of your Dawn cards, and if you did, give all your opponent's characters and leaders minus 1000 power during this turn. So this is like a really good defense card, right? Being able to spend 1 Dawn to essentially get a plus 3k, and then also gives minus 1000 to everything. So it's only cards that exist on the board, so if they play something like with Rush afterwards, it doesn't get the minus, but being able to like prevent your opponent from going super aggressive is really, really nice. So love this card. And if you don't spend the Dawn, it's just a plus 2k 2k, which is really good. So, and then also the To Never Doubt, that is power. This is plus 2000 during this battle, which is something on counter timing. And then also, main, you can give up to 2 active Dawn to your Silver's Rayleigh. That your opponent cannot activate blocker if that leader character attacks during this turn. So that's really, really nice to be able to have this. And like you'll see, like this deck has so many 2Ks inherently off these events. And then you also have like the additional 2Ks off the Brook and Sanji. You have so much power in general. So very easy for you. Have 2 events. We also have searchers like Nami, the Shakuya, there's the Buggy, as well as the Boa Hancock. All these cards let you search, and there's just so many events for it. So this has been a really fun deck to learn. I definitely recommend it if you haven't already. And it's just a blast of play. I've been having a lot of fun with it. So there it is. Next we have Eustace Kid, and so this is pretty much pretty identical to the top 8 deck that got a finish at Paris this past weekend. So I don't necessarily think that this is a deck that necessarily got better from this meta, right? I think there are some good yellow cards that you could be running in this deck too, but I think this is kind of just a a cursory look at what the deck looks like right now, right? There's not that much change. Like, there's Silver's Rayleigh and Zoro, which I think are 2 good decks of this meta, but I think like most of the decks that were around in OP11 are still around in this meta as well. And so because of it, if Eustace Kid was secretly good at the end of the OP11 meta that we had, it just means I can still do really good in this meta, right? So we did get like the beige as well, which is really, I guess, the only real support we got in OP11. But this being able to be like a block, a very burn heavy deck, right? We have like the Basil Hawkins as well as the Nico Robin. These are really great ways to get like cards like blue purple Luffy down to 0 life, so you can just pressure them every turn. The kind of additional cycle you get from Eustace Captain Kid, the fact that Trafalgar Law lets you heal. There's like a lot of good things that this deck kind of wants to do. It is like a little bit clunky sometimes. I feel like sometimes I'm always running out of cards, but the removal, the amount of triggers that this deck has, and everything else, I think it's in a good spot. So not much more to say, but here it is, the Eustace Captain Kid. We also have the green and purple Luffy, which did actually get a bit of a change in this current meta. This deck was like, man, we're green, but we can't play Hody at full potential because it's a card that, doesn't let us get that additional, our leader effect, right? Because it's a non-straw hat. And it's like, well, let's give us a searchable Hody event in archetype, right? So Demon Aura, 9 sword style, Oster Blades, Drawn Dead Man's Game is a main. You may rest 3 of your Dawn cards, rest up to 2 of your opponent's characters are Dawn cards. Like this card is like secretly meant for this deck, right? The fact that you kind of need to have Dawn tapped to be able, you need 4 Dawn tapped to get full advantage of your deck, right? You Dawn -2 and retap 2. This is like, cool, I'll spend 4, I'll tap 2 of your opponent's characters or Dawn cards, so it could be blockers, could be Dawn, whatever, and then I get to attack from there and still not lose out on any Dawn. And it's searchable by all of our search cards except for Zoro, because it is a green card, not a purple card, ironically, but it's just really good. Like this card's just fantastic in so many ways, and was not super needed by Green Purple Luffy, but it got it anyways. So if there's like a situation where Gum Gum Giant does get banned, this does help us a little bit by just also being like a counter event. Obviously, it's worse on the counter side compared to Gum Gum Giant, but it still can help you in those spots. And I think that this is I don't know. Like if it's just like Giant that gets hit, I think Green Purple Luffy is still in a fantastic spot. But also, if we're in a meta where Giant isn't around anymore, tapping Dawn, I don't think is as impactful as it used to be either. So I'll be curious to see how this deck does in the next little bit. If there are some changes to Purple Luffy, what cards they can use, if this deck's still gonna be viable. But it's just so good, right? It's been so good for so long. It's really hard to power creep this deck, I think, with the current meta as it is. And I think it's still a good investment as long as nothing like too critically gets hit on the restriction list. So there is the deck there. Next up, we've got the green Bonnie. And Bonnie's been around for over a year now. I think it's been like the strongest green leader for the longest time, right? We've at least like mono green leader. We had like Eustace Captain Kid, be relevant in the first little meta. We had Carrot kind of pop up every once in a while, but Bonnie's been really, really consistent as a good green supernova leader. So obviously we have the new Zoro. I think that's been getting a lot more attention as of late, but Bonnie's still in a pretty good spot. So we do have a lot of the support cards that are for the Zoro deck also affect us. We also do have a new secret rare, which is the Bonnie blocker on play. If you have 8 or more rested cards, you get to draw 2 and trash 1 card of your hand, and then at the setup to 1 of your Dawn cards as active. So This is like generically so good in so many leaders, right? Technically, most green decks can play this. It also is a 5-drop supernova, so like Trafalgar Law can play this as well. I think this is just a great card in a deck that had like issues with getting like the draw 2 and trash 1. You had to run so many of like these bricky cards that you couldn't really get out of your hand. That's been really, really nice, especially since it's Bonnie, it's searchable. There's so many good things about it. So it's kind of rougher to play it on curve because you have to have 8 or more rested cards. It's a little bit tricky to do that on curve, but if you play it a little bit later, it does help you there too. We also do have the Kyoshiro. I didn't really mention it in the Zoro deck, but this is a really good blocker. If one of your 5 or lower slash attribute characters other than this character would be KO'd by your opponent's effect, you can rest this character instead. So it's kind of like an additional copy of like Rosinante or a substitution. The fact that you can play this out and then you can get protection on your Cavendish, which is a 5-cost slash card, right, is really, really important. There's also sometimes like maybe you'll play an X-Drake or even like the 5-drop Smoker, which is like around in the deck every once in a while. It's really, really good to get that protection without like losing it outright. So it's only for a 5 or higher, but that does help you. There's also, again, Mihawk is just a generically good card. Also, if you play this on 9 Dawn, you're able to play this card, unrest 4, and then you have 5 Dawn, and then you can play Bonnie, and then you'll have 9 rested Dawn, so you can get the effect immediately, and then you still have the extra Dawn to untap for the Bonnie leader effect. So all of that's really great. I think that Bonnie's in a really good spot here, and continually is going to be one of the better generic green decks. So there it is. Next up, we've got Teach, and Teach did just win the Paris finals this past weekend in the OP11 format. I think the deck is still, it's always going to be like a slow start, I think, for Teach in any meta, right? You are really, really critically needed to know what your opponent's playing, what they're expected to play, and like when to use your leader effect and when not to use your leader effect, as well as like, there's a couple like 4 or 5 flex spots in the deck at any given time. And so to know what cards to fit into the meta to use them correctly is kind of a skill as well. So there are some new, cards we got from the star deck. We kind of like sprinkled them across of like the Katarina Devon. We also have the Wolf as well as the 7-drop Teach. I think most people agree that this is a 2 to 3 copy in most Teach decks at this point. Just such a good removal card that also has protection, lets you get a card draw essentially on KO, which is really, really nice. And obviously really pairs a few Von Augur, or even if you do like Kuzan on 5 and then on 7 you pop it for a Von Augur, and then you get to play out the Marshal D Teach, you get to get rid of a 6 cost, which if you're at 7 Dawn, your opponent likely played something 6 cost or less on the previous turn. So that removal is really, really strong. And if they try to get rid of Von Augur or Marshal D Teach, you get card draw, which is really good too. So not much more to say. I think this deck has been really good for a while. It's definitely a deck that you have to, again, go deep into the knowledge of the card pool, the meta, and everything else, but you do get rewarded for it. And here is the build there. Next up, we got Betty, and Betty definitely dropped off in Japan in the OP12 format, but I still think it's a really good deck. If Blue Purple Luffy is still around at any capacity, that being your best matchup is still really good. There's not a lot to change with this leader. I do know that there's also been like some talk if there are going to be any adjustments to this. I know a lot of people are saying that the Emporio as well as the Karasu combo has been really, really strong and something that might be adjusted or people are wanting to get changed or not. I don't really know at this point. I do agree that I've faced against Betty enough for one lifetime at this point that I hope it doesn't happen again, but who's to say? I'm unsure for it. But it is a strong deck right now. There are just definitely times where it decides to win and you really can't do anything about it. It doesn't look like there's as much hard to the ground like Rob Lucci removal in the deck, but in the meta, but there are definitely ways to interact with it. There are some ways to be aggressive right back to Betty. And I do think that's a worse format in general for Betty in general. I think like green has been like shown as like a really kind of tough matchup for the deck too, with Zoro as well as Bonnie. They're very present. And also just like Silver's Rayleigh being, arguably like a better aggressive deck in a lot of situations. So we'll see if that's true or not, but here is Betty, and it might be viable. We'll see how viable it is as we get into the OP12 meta. We've got 2 more decks, and we've got Enel of all decks making a bit of a comeback this week. So one of the newer cards that I'm really excited to play with is the Bartholomew Kuma. So it's a 6-cost, 7k Secret with 1k counter for some reason. On play, you may trash 1 card from your hand, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. This character gains plus 2 cost until the end of your opponent's next end phase, and then on opponent's turn on KO, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to your life card. So this is just like a super good value card. There's a lot of decks that like really appreciate getting that extra life. Like generically, it's a good effect, right? But there are some that appreciate it more. Enel is, in particular one of them, especially because it's difficult to remove. And if they do KO it, you get that heal again, which is really, really nice. And trashing a card from hand is really easy to get that additional heal in the deck too. So, I know a lot of people are looking forward to this. I know like decks like Nami and like Queen and others can take advantage of using this card as well. And I am looking forward to seeing what it will look like in the future and how it will work out. There's also the Sabo from OP12. It's if you have 3 or less life cards, this gains blocker and +3 cost. So an 8k blocker, or sorry, an 8 cost blocker is really, really good in this game right now. And then also on play, you may add 1 card from the top of your life to your hand, draw 2 cards, and trash 1. So, and now really like wants to get down to 1 life as soon as possible. This being a 8 cost blocker in the late, after you take 1 life is like really, really good for this deck. And that draw 2 trash 1 is just impactful as well. So I know a lot of people were playing Sanji. You have to be at 2 life or less. This just says you get to go down to less life, and then you get that additional ability, which is really nice. So other than that, it's kind of like the Enel deck that we know. We've got a lot of removal. I think 4-drop Kuzan's been a good card for removal and kind of starving out your opponent. We also are running some cooler decks like the Hino Bird Zap KO up to one of your opponent's characters equal or less than the number of your opponent's life cards. So definitely kind of looking for more of a like a removal heavy deck. And there's also Merman Combat Ultramarine. So main add up to 1 character that costs a 6 or less to the top or bottom of your owner's life face up. So this can include your Kuma as well. And then also trigger add up to 1 of your opponent's characters cost 4 or less to the top or bottom to your opponent's life face up too. So obviously, I don't think you're going to use it on your own Kuma as much, but the fact that you could use it to then get a heal on the next turn could buy you like another turn. Also, just like the hard removal for something that means then your Yamato gets like super clear potential too, or again like you can use something. Yeah, I think like like the Kuzan and the Hino Bird Zap, right? So this is looks honestly like a really obnoxious build, maybe that's the right word for it. You just stall out your opponent quite a lot. You make sure you get like a really big board. You make sure they have no resources, and then you get to go in towards the end of the game. So it's a really interesting build. I definitely have to try it out myself. And here is the build of Enel there. And to wrap it up, we've got Smoker, my favorite deck to hate in the sense that I always feel that I have consistency issues with this deck, but I also think this deck got a huge bonus and consistency in itself. So we already kind of talked about Perona, but we are a slash type leader, so we do get to use this, which is really, really nice. And we've kind of built the deck around it too. So one of our most important cards in the deck is obviously Smoker. So this is searchable off of the Perona as well. We have changed a couple of our cards to have that additional search potential. So Kinemon is just a 2k with slash, which is good. We also have Kyoshiro, which again is a blocker with slash, so both of that is fantastic. But I think we also just get a lot of benefits from this Dracul Mihawk. So if you play this on 8, you get 4 Dawn back, and then you get to use your leader effect and get 2 additional Dawn back. So for 2 Dawn, essentially, you get an 8k body blocker, which is absurd, I think, in so many ways. You can't play another 7 or more for the rest of the turn, but that is fine. We've got cards like Bonnie and Smoker to take care of that as well. We do also run the Paradise Waterfall, which is not only searchable off of the Perona, but being able to use this to say, okay, I block with my Mihawk on attack, and then I can like Paradise Waterfall, restand it, and block with it again, right? Is great. It's huge for the deck. So I think like being able to use these cards just makes it better than like Yusa's Kid. It's a lot more flexible, and we have some ways to interact with our opponent a little bit more. So this is looking like a really cool build. This is definitely looking more like a mid-range value build, not as like aggressive as I've seen it. And my favorite way to play Smoker has always been to be more of like a removal like deck at the end of the game, where we have just so much Dawn that we get to use like Mole Gun and other cards to really kind of punish our opponent, and just every turn we get that extra 2 Dawn just feels really, really good. So here's the build for Smoker, and make sure to check it out if you haven't already. And that's going to be it for this video. So again, this is just a preview of OP12. This is going to be like wildly changing, I think, in the next couple weeks too, but I'm really excited to look at OP12 and going into the next One Piece format. And most of you guys know like July was a bit of a lull for the card game, which is understood. Those happen every once in a while, but I'm really ready to kind of jump back into it. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.